Most gardeners wait until pests have already taken over. They notice holes in the cabbage leaves, aphids covering the new growth, beetles chewing the beans, or slugs hiding beneath the lettuce. Then the battle begins. They buy sprays, powders, traps, and treatments. The pests disappear for a few days. But before long they return. Sometimes they come back in even greater numbers. The problem is not always the product. The problem is the strategy. Old-fashioned farming communities understood that the best time to fight a pest is before it becomes a serious problem. They did not depend on one miracle spray. They built gardens that were difficult for pests to enter, uncomfortable for them to live in, and easy for the gardener to inspect. That is the real idea behind the so-called Amish secret to keeping pests out of the garden. It is not one mysterious plant. It is not a hidden chemical recipe. And no method can guarantee that every pest will stay away forever. A living garden will always attract insects and animals. But by combining several simple habits, you can prevent many pest problems before they begin and stop small outbreaks from destroying your harvest. The secret is creating layers of protection. Healthy soil makes stronger plants. Correct spacing removes hiding places. Crop rotation interrupts pest life cycles. Flowers attract beneficial insects. Physical barriers stop pests before they touch the leaves. Daily observation catches the few that still get through. Each step may seem simple. Together, they can completely change the garden. In this video, I am showing you the complete old-fashioned pest prevention system and how to use it without filling your yard with harmful chemicals. Stay until the end, because the final habit takes only a few minutes but may prevent more damage than every spray in the garden shed. Before we begin, remember that Amish farms and gardens are not all identical. Different families, regions, and communities use different methods. The techniques in this video are traditional gardening practices used by many experienced growers, not a secret followed by every Amish gardener. Their strength comes from prevention, observation, and consistency. Now let us get into it. Start with healthy soil. Pest control begins beneath the surface. A weak plant sends out signals that many pests can detect. It may grow slowly, produce thin leaves, or struggle to repair minor damage. A healthy plant is not pest-proof, but it can usually tolerate feeding better and recover faster. Build the soil with finished compost, aged organic matter, and mulch. Do not expect one heavy fertilizer application to create lasting health. Plants need a balance of nutrients, moisture, air, and beneficial soil life. Too much nitrogen can create soft, rapid growth that attracts aphids and other sap-feeding insects. The plant may look large and green, but the tissues can be tender. Use fertilizer according to the needs of the crop, rather than applying it simply because you want faster growth. Drainage is equally important. Roots sitting in water cannot absorb oxygen properly. The plant becomes stressed, leaves turn yellow, and disease becomes more likely. If your soil remains wet for long periods, use raised beds, add suitable organic matter, or select crops adapted to those conditions. Compacted soil creates another problem. Roots cannot spread deeply, and water may run across the surface instead of soaking in. Avoid walking inside planting beds. Use paths so the growing soil remains loose. A garden built on healthy soil does not eliminate pests. It creates plants strong enough to resist becoming an easy meal. Rotate your crops. Planting the same crop in the same place every year makes life easy for pests. Many insects and diseases are associated with specific plant families. After the crop is removed, some pests remain in the soil, nearby debris, or surrounding area. When the same vegetable returns the following season, the food source appears exactly where the pest expects it. Crop rotation interrupts that pattern. Move plant families to different beds each year when space allows. Tomatoes, peppers, eggplants, and potatoes belong to the nightshade family. Broccoli, cabbage, kale, cauliflower, and radishes belong to the brassica family. Beans and peas belong to the legume family. Cucumbers, melons, squash, and pumpkins belong to the cucurbit family. Do not rotate only between tomato and pepper and assume you changed crops. They belong to the same family and may share pests and diseases. A longer rotation is generally more effective than moving the crop back and forth between two locations. Small gardeners may not have enough space for a perfect multi-year rotation. You can still help by using containers, replacing unhealthy soil when appropriate, cleaning old plant debris, and avoiding the same exact placement every season. Rotation works best against problems that remain close to the original crop. It will not stop every flying insect from finding your garden, but it can reduce the number of pests waiting in the soil before the season even begins. Never leave diseased or infested plants behind. At the end of the season, many gardeners walk away. The tomato vines collapse. The squash leaves become covered in disease. Cabbage stems remain in the bed. Dead plants are left until spring. That debris can shelter pest eggs, larvae, spores, and infected tissue throughout winter. When warm weather returns, the next problem begins only a few feet from the new crop. Remove badly diseased plants promptly. Do not leave them beside the bed. Do not place serious disease material into a cool compost pile unless you know the pile reaches the temperatures needed to destroy the problem. Dispose of it according to local recommendations. Healthy plant remains can often be composted, but inspect them first. Look beneath leaves, around stems, and inside rolled foliage for insects or egg clusters. Clean tomato cages, trellises, stakes, pots, and tools before the next planting. A dirty support can carry disease from one season into another. Remove fallen fruit as well. Rotting tomatoes, cucumbers, melons, and apples attract flies, beetles, slugs, rodents, and other animals. One forgotten fruit beneath thick foliage can become a feeding station. A clean garden gives pests fewer places to survive between crops. Use row covers before pests arrive. Physical barriers are among the most reliable pest control tools. A fine insect cover placed over a crop can stop adult pests from landing, feeding, or laying eggs. The key is installing it early. Do not wait until caterpillars are already eating the leaves. Cover brassicas immediately after planting to reduce damage from cabbage butterflies and moths. Protect young radishes and other vulnerable crops from flea beetles. Use suitable covers over carrots where carrot fly is a problem. Secure every edge. A small opening beneath the fabric can become an entrance. Use soil, boards, clips, sandbags, or another safe method to hold the cover tightly while allowing space for plant growth. The fabric should rest on hoops when plants need room. Avoid pressing heavy material directly against delicate leaves. There is one major warning. Some crops need insect pollination. Cucumbers, squash, melons, and many fruiting plants must be uncovered when flowering begins unless you plan to pollinate by hand. Self-pollinating crops such as many beans and tomatoes may be managed differently, but airflow and temperature must still be considered. Row covers can trap heat. During warm weather, inspect the temperature beneath them and use a material designed for insect protection rather than heavy frost protection. Physical barriers do not poison pests. They simply stop the meeting between the pest and the plant. Plant flowers for beneficial insects. Not every insect in the garden is your enemy. Ladybugs and their larvae eat aphids. Lacewing larvae feed on soft-bodied pests. Hoverfly larvae consume aphids. Parasitic wasps attack caterpillars and other insects. Ground beetles hunt pests near the soil. Spiders catch many creatures that fly or crawl through the garden. These natural predators need food and shelter. Adult beneficial insects often feed on nectar and pollen, even when their young feed on pests. Grow small flowered plants that make nectar easy to reach. Sweet alyssum, dill, cilantro, parsley, fennel, yarrow, calendula, cosmos, and several native flowers can help support beneficial insects. Choose plants suited to your climate and avoid invasive species. Allow some herbs to flower. A gardener may pull every blooming dill or cilantro plant because it has stopped producing tender leaves. But those flowers can attract helpful insects. Plant enough that you can harvest some and allow others to bloom. Avoid spraying broad insecticides over the flowers. A product that kills aphids may also kill the insects eating them. Even some natural pesticides harm beneficial species. Treat only when necessary and target the affected area. A diverse garden is more stable than a garden containing one crop from one end to the other. When pests arrive, predators are more likely to be nearby. Use trap crops carefully. A trap crop is a plant grown to attract pests away from the main crop. The idea sounds simple. Give the pest something it prefers, then manage the pest on that plant. Nasturtiums may attract aphids away from certain vegetables. Radishes can sometimes draw flea beetles. Mustard plants may attract some pests that attack other brassicas. But trap crops only work when monitored. If you plant a trap crop and ignore it, you may create a breeding station. The pests reproduce, spread, and eventually move onto the vegetables you intended to protect. Inspect trap plants frequently. Remove pest-covered leaves, use appropriate control methods, or remove the entire plant before the infestation expands. Place the trap crop where it can be reached easily. Do not hide it at the far edge of the property. The exact result depends on the pest, crop, climate, and timing. Trap cropping is not guaranteed. Use it as one layer of protection rather than depending on it completely. Space plants properly. Crowded plants create shelter. Leaves overlap. Sunlight cannot reach the lower stems. Moisture remains trapped after rain or watering. Pests move from one plant to another without crossing exposed ground. The gardener cannot see what is happening inside the foliage. This is perfect for slugs, aphids, whiteflies, caterpillars, and fungal disease. Follow the mature spacing recommended for the variety. A small seedling may look lonely when first planted. That empty area will disappear as the plant grows. Do not fill every gap simply because the bed looks unfinished. Train climbing crops upward. Cucumbers, pole beans, and small melons can use trellises. Tomatoes should be supported and selectively pruned according to their type. Remove leaves resting directly on the soil when appropriate. That reduces hiding places and limits soil splash. Do not strip plants bare. Leaves produce energy and protect fruit from sun damage. The goal is airflow and visibility. You should be able to look through the plant, inspect the stems, and reach the harvest without pushing through a solid wall of leaves. Water in the morning. Watering time affects pest activity and plant disease. When you water late in the evening, the soil and foliage may remain damp throughout the night. Slugs and snails become active after dark. A wet garden gives them comfortable conditions to travel and feed. Fungal disease also spreads more easily when leaves remain wet for long periods. Morning watering gives the plants moisture before the heat of the day. Any wet foliage has time to dry. Direct water toward the soil rather than spraying every leaf. Drip irrigation and soaker hoses reduce unnecessary moisture and deliver water closer to the roots. Water deeply. Frequent shallow watering creates a constantly damp surface that attracts moisture-loving pests and encourages shallow roots. Check the soil before watering. Do not follow a schedule without considering rainfall, temperature, crop size, and soil type. Overwatered plants become stressed and more vulnerable. Underwatered plants also weaken. The goal is consistent moisture in the root zone without creating a permanent swamp on the surface. Inspect plant saucers, buckets, and containers. Standing water can become a mosquito breeding site. Empty anything that does not need to hold water. Use mulch without creating a pest hotel. Mulch protects soil, conserves moisture, and suppresses weeds. But thick, wet mulch can shelter slugs, earwigs, pill bugs, rodents, and other pests. Apply enough to cover the soil without building a deep, airless layer. The correct depth depends on the material. Straw remains loose but may contain seeds. Shredded leaves break down well, but can form a mat if applied too thickly. Wood chips work well on paths and around perennial plants, but may create hiding spaces when piled heavily against vegetable stems. Keep mulch away from the main stem and crown. A small open circle reduces constant moisture and makes pests easier to see. Check beneath the mulch occasionally. If it is slimy, compacted, or filled with slugs, pull it back and allow the surface to dry. Do not keep adding new mulch without inspecting the old layer. Mulch should support the plant. It should not provide a covered road from the garden edge directly to the stem. Add birdhouses and water carefully. Birds can be powerful pest control partners. Many feed their young large numbers of caterpillars, beetles, and other insects. A garden with suitable shrubs, nesting areas, and water may attract helpful species. But feeding wildlife requires care. Birdseed spilled close to a vegetable bed can attract rats, mice, and squirrels. Those animals may later eat seedlings, fruit, seeds, and roots. Place feeders away from the main crop area. Use catch trays and clean spilled seed. Store birdseed in sealed containers. Bird baths should be shallow, clean, and refreshed regularly. Stagnant water can attract mosquitoes. Scrub the container to remove eggs and algae. Provide water without creating a breeding site. Do not use poisons around the garden to control rodents. Poisoned animals can harm owls, hawks, pets, and other predators. Remove the food and shelter attracting them. Seal gaps in sheds, protect compost, and clean spilled seed. The goal is attracting pest-eating wildlife without attracting a second pest problem. Control weeds early. Weeds compete with vegetables, but they also shelter pests. Aphids may gather on weeds before moving to crops. Slugs hide beneath dense ground growth. Rodents travel through tall grass. Beetles and caterpillars remain concealed along overgrown bed edges. Remove weeds while they are small. A shallow hoe on a dry day can eliminate hundreds of seedlings quickly. Do not wait until they are large enough to flower and produce seed. Keep fence lines and pathways under control. A clean bed beside a wall of tall weeds is still exposed. This does not mean removing every wild plant from the property. Native flowering areas can support pollinators and beneficial insects. Create those areas intentionally and keep them far enough from vulnerable crops to allow inspection. Know which plants you are preserving and which weeds are harboring trouble. Inspect the undersides of leaves. This is the final habit, and it may be the most important. Pests rarely begin with a dramatic invasion. They begin with a few eggs. One caterpillar. A small aphid colony. A beetle hidden beneath a leaf. At this stage, the problem may take less than a minute to control. A week later, the plant may be covered. Walk through the garden every day or two. Turn over several leaves. Inspect new growth, stems, flower buds, and the base of the plant. Look for eggs, holes, droppings, webbing, sticky residue, rolled leaves, and unusual discoloration. Learn what normal growth looks like. Changes become easier to notice. Hand-pick large pests and drop them into soapy water when appropriate. Remove heavily infested leaves without stripping the plant. Spray aphids from sturdy plants with a strong stream of water. Crush egg clusters when you can identify them safely. Do not kill an insect simply because you do not recognize it. Take a clear photograph and identify it first. It may be a predator helping you. 10 minutes of inspection prevents hours of treatment. The gardener who looks closely rarely gets surprised. The complete layered system. Here is how the entire method works together. Healthy soil produces strong plants. Crop rotation makes it harder for pests to return to the same food source. Clean beds remove overwintering shelter. Row covers block insects before they land. Flowers support natural predators. Trap crops concentrate selected pests where they can be managed. Correct spacing removes hidden travel routes. Morning watering reduces damp nighttime conditions. Controlled mulch protects the soil without creating pest shelter. Birds and other beneficial wildlife consume insects. Early weeding removes alternative hosts and hiding places. Regular inspection catches whatever gets through. No single step is perfect. That is why the layers matter. A cabbage butterfly may pass the flowers, but the row cover stops it. An aphid may appear beneath the cover, but the gardener notices the colony early. A caterpillar may escape hand-picking, but a parasitic wasp may find it. A slug may enter the bed, but dry morning-watered soil and controlled mulch provide fewer hiding places. The garden becomes difficult to invade and easy to defend. What not to do. Do not spray the entire garden every week as a precaution. You may kill beneficial insects and create a space where pests return without predators. Do not use salt around vegetables. Salt can damage the soil and plant roots. Do not assume homemade mixtures are harmless. Strong vinegar burns skin and eyes. Dish soap can injure leaves. Essential oils may harm insects, plants, pets, and people when misused. Do not plant one so-called repellent herb and expect every pest to disappear. Companion plants may contribute fragrance, diversity, or beneficial insect habitat, but they do not create an invisible wall. And do not wait for perfection. A few holes in a leaf do not mean the garden has failed. Plants can tolerate minor damage. Treat the pest population, not your fear of seeing an insect. Can you keep pests out forever? Not completely. A garden is part of nature. Wind carries insects. Birds drop seeds. Animals travel at night. Eggs remain hidden beneath leaves. Weather changes which pests become active. The promise of keeping every pest away forever is not realistic. But you can keep serious damage from becoming a permanent part of the garden. You can break pest life cycles. You can remove the conditions helping them reproduce. You can create a garden where predators are already waiting. You can notice problems before they spread. That is a far more powerful result than temporarily killing everything with one spray. The goal is not an insect-free garden. The goal is a balanced garden where pests remain below the level that destroys your harvest. Final recap. The so-called Amish secret is not a secret chemical. It is a way of managing the garden. Build healthy soil so plants can resist stress. Rotate crop families. Remove diseased and infested debris. Install row covers before pests arrive. Grow flowers for beneficial insects. Monitor trap crops instead of ignoring them. Give plants enough space for airflow. Water in the morning and direct moisture toward the roots. Use mulch carefully. Attract birds without spilling food beside the vegetables. Control weeds before they become pest shelters. And inspect the garden often enough to catch trouble early. These habits may not look dramatic. They do not come in a brightly colored bottle. But they work together every day. The gardener who depends on spraying reacts after damage appears. The gardener who uses prevention quietly removes the conditions pests need. Food, water, shelter, breeding sites, unprotected plants. Once those advantages disappear, pest pressure becomes easier to manage. You may still find a caterpillar. You may still see aphids. You may still lose a leaf or two. But you are far less likely to wake up and discover that the entire crop has been destroyed. That is the real old-fashioned lesson. Do not wait for pests to become powerful. Build the garden so they never receive the opportunity. If this video helped you see pest control differently, hit the like button and share it with another gardener who is tired of spraying the same insects every season. Subscribe for more practical gardening methods that protect your harvest, save money, and work with nature instead of destroying everything living in the garden. And leave a comment telling me which pest causes the most damage where you live. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one.